Welcome to our global partners. Before we get started on today's CEBA Clean Energy Buyers Association vmLIVE, I just have a few reminders. Like all vmLIVEs, today's vmLIVE is being recorded. Playbacks are always available to you 24 to 48 hours after we air live. Log into Partner Connect, and you're going to see our vmLIVE page on the right-hand side. If you are in Partner University, stay in Partner University. We've moved to events, and then, of course, vmLIVE. I say this often, so I'm going to say it again. I am always available to you before or after vmLIVE at vmlive@vmware.com. So feel free to reach out to me. Because vmLIVEs are for our partners and our partners only, we are going to answer your questions in real time today. And we encourage you to be part of our conversation by using the Q&A. Guy, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's vmLIVE and turn the session over to you.
Thanks, Teresa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for our cloud provider partners. And I'm here today with Chris and Nicola. Welcome, guys. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourselves? Chris, why don't you go first?
Sure. I'm really happy to be here as well. My name is Chris Partridge. I work for the Clean Energy Buyers Association, and I will be doing a presentation today about the organization, which is exciting. It's fortuitous. Today is actually our 4-year anniversary from launch for CEBA. So it just makes sense I'll be doing this for you today as well.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Congratulations, Chris. My name is Nicola Peel-Moulter. My title is Director of Sustainability Innovation at VMware. And my role is to help our customers understand the sustainability benefits of VMware's virtualization solutions, and also how we can innovate more, like we're doing with the Zero Carbon Committed program through our partners like yourselves to help customers achieve their sustainability goals.
Thanks, Nicola. So yeah, as Nicola said, today we're talking about CEBA, or Clean Energy Buyers Alliance, and what CEBA can do for you. Chris is going to walk through what CEBA is, the benefits CEBA can provide, how you can get access to CEBA, and all sorts of other things. I'm not going to take his thunder. So I'm going to just really quickly go over why you need environmental sustainability goals and the Zero Carbon Committed initiative that Nicola just mentioned. Okay, so let's start with why you need sustainability goals. In a nutshell, I did a bit of research looking at just specifically the EU, because I'm in the UK and this is something close to my heart. Looking at data center cloud energy usage and the way that data centers have changed and how the energy usage is going up. On the left-hand chart, you can see the different regions, and no surprise there, Western EU and Northern EU is taking most of the energy consumption from all of the data centers in Europe. And on the right-hand side, you can see the different types of data centers. Not surprisingly, a traditional data center is pretty much in decline now. Your traditional colo hosting partners. Edge data centers are starting to see some growth, and cloud data centers. Cloud data centers are pretty much the biggest culprit of energy consumption in the EU as far as data centers go. So this is something that you clearly see is growing. It's growing fast, and as data grows, I think about 30% year on year, it's not going to slow down. And when you look at the totality of it, data centers consume 2.7% of the entire EU electricity. So that's a fairly significant footprint, as much CO2 as an airline industry, and it's growing fast at 6% annually. There's no doubt in my mind that everyone has a responsibility who deals with cloud to look at sustainability inside their infrastructure and inside their data centers to help limit the growth of energy consumption of these data centers. So as a customer, there's a couple of things that are important. Looking at the greenhouse gas protocol, which kind of looks at the type of businesses you are, how you're consuming energy, and buckets you into different scopes. Basically, most customers, when they run their own data center, they're in a scope 1, which means they procure energy directly from a supplier. They own and operate the company facilities, and all logistics. So that's pretty much a standard, your customer has his own data center, whether that's a formal data center or that's, something that's stuck in the cloakroom. Depends what sort of customer you're looking at, but most customers have some sort of data center today. As well as wanting to move to cloud. When they move to cloud, the scope of emissions will change. So if they move to cloud, if they purchase electricity for their own use, then they move into a scope 2, an indirect emission, using purchased energy. But basically, when cloud providers come along and partners like yourselves, you're going to be taking the entire data center into your environment, hopefully. And that will mean that the customer effectively moves from a scope 1 or scope 2 into a total scope 3 environment, where everything is indirect, and everything that is like consumed in terms of energy is actually being procured by the cloud provider. So there's downstream supply chain to consider. And what really this means is, if a company today is responsible for their sustainability strategy, when they move to a scope 3, the cloud provider becomes accountable for that strategy. They've got to provide transparency and reporting on the energy usage of the customer, so the customer can then report that back to their business. And that's a key thing that we're seeing more and more cloud providers needing to look at today. Not only the sustainability footprint and energy consumption of the data center, but also providing reporting and metering of energy consumptions to customers as a service. And this is becoming much more important for customers as more and more customers move to cloud. What cloud providers are they looking for? Basically, customers are considering, cloud providers and energy sustainability as very important, the majority, and somewhat important. I think you could bundle that all together and say that's just all important. So that's a huge chunk of a customer base who will make a decision on which cloud providers they're going to go to by, part of the decision criteria being around the sustainability of that cloud provider. So a key point to kind of note when you're looking at your data center and what sustainability strategy you have today. So what is the Zero Carbon Committed Initiative? So VMware created this, Nicola, I'm going to say it's 2 years ago, is that correct?
Yeah, it was May of 2021, yes.
Absolutely, okay, great. And again, pioneering as VMware does, bringing right to the forefront key initiatives that customers are asking for. And one jumps to mind is sovereign cloud, but Zero Carbon Committed is a way of recognizing that a partner with a data center has a commitment to zero carbon, 100% zero carbon renewable energy powered data centers by 2030. So this is really for partners that have made those sustainability commitments and made those public sustainability. We aim to try and connect partners to those customers to those partners by advertising the partner capabilities and really promoting those partners actively that are zero carbon committed. As you just saw, if customers are looking for cloud partners with sustainability strategies, this can be a key differentiator for you. Having this attribution to your service can really help customers identify the partners they want to find, and also the partners who are going to be providing the strategy they want to adhere to. So what is the qualification to be a partner? Firstly, you have to be cloud verified. Why? Because cloud verified means you've adopted VMware's SDDC stack. And as we all know, VMware's SDDC stack has saved a ton of carbon by virtualizing compute, network, and storage. Secondly, you have to have a public commitment to achieve 100% renewable energy powers by 2030. So this means it's got to be on your website. You've got to have, this is a priority for your board. It's something you're metering and monitoring and actively striving towards. We will ask for verification of this. So we'll ask for verification of demonstrable progress towards the goal. and we will look at your renewable energy goal in terms of your public declaration and other aspects of your strategy. And we also verify this on an annual basis that you're actually working towards those goals. We do look at things like renewable energy procurement certificates, guarantees of origin, things like that. So we'll work with you to understand what you've got and how you're actively working towards the 2030 goal. So we've talked about the Zero Carbon Committed program. There's other resources that I want to bring to the front here of everyone on this vmLIVE that VMware has really over the last year created. First of all, on the top left there, you have a renewable energy training series. This is something that we asked an agency called Anthesis to work with us, and they have worked with Nicola and I and created this series of videos, very easy to consume, bite-sized modules, which will just give you a high-level idea of how you go about committing your company and setting a strategy towards using renewable energy. CEBA, we're going to talk about in a minute. Chris is going to come on. I think it's the next slide. So what we're doing with CEBA, VMware as a CEBA partner, Chris, I forget what level we are, but as a certain tier of partner, we get to provide you, our partners, with a six-month free trial to CEBA. And this is an organization which is going to help you on that journey, provide you resources on that journey, a real community of companies committed to achieving carbon-free electricity. So Chris will talk through all of that in a second. We also have various videos on our cloud provider channel. One of them is a Feature Friday about renewable energy. In this one, Nicola and I discuss in detail all of these assets and a little bit more positioning around zero carbon committed. Almost at the last point, we have a carbon offset calculator. This is looking at Cloud Director. For those of you who don't know what Cloud Director is, it's a product that the cloud provider business unit in VMware produces, and that basically enables you to provide multi-tenancy on top of an SDDC. The real plus around this is you can use various allocation models for various customers, and by using those allocation models and using micro-segmented workloads and layer 2 network segregation, you can run multiple customers on a single host securely, and you can achieve the service levels you want whilst over-throttling the resources. That in turn is going to enable you to run your hardware at maximum capacity most efficiently. So instead of 10 servers for every customer, you may need 7 or 5, depending on the allocation models you use. Can turn out to be a huge saving in not only physical costs of hosts, but obviously the run costs of those hosts in terms of electricity. So have a play with the carbon offset calculator, have a play with the allocation models. You could use this as a single customer use case if the customer was going to use Cloud Director and was kind of in two minds about it. Maybe the sustainability factor of it could swing the argument. You could also use it in looking at your entire estate. You can plug in all of your estate variables, energy usage, etc., and then look at your service tiers with Cloud Director, and the carbon offset calculator will work out the carbon offset for the entire estate. And lastly, we did a paper called the CSP Sustainability Challenge. You can read there about what customers are looking for with their cloud providers, how the market is moving, and then there's a section at the back around how Cloud Director can enable you to achieve a more sustainable data center. Okay, so use your cameras, take some pictures of the QR codes, and enjoy the resources. So Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Guy. And I will just have to say that's the first time I've heard of the zero carbon commitment, and it is a very impressive program. If that is giving you anxiety, that 2030 mark, that is why CEBA exists. We are here to help take some of that anxiety away. So that really is what we do and how we help to educate. So Guy, if you want to go to the next slide, that'd be great. So you might have heard Guy call it the Clean Energy Buyers Alliance, and that is fine. We used to be the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance, and we still consider ourselves an alliance today. We have two kind of organizations within one. That's the alliance part of it, which is the Clean Energy Buyers Association. I'm just going to read the definition here. Is a business association that activates a community of energy customers and partners to deploy market and policy solutions for a carbon-free energy system. Today, we have over 360 members across the energy market. We are pursuing a vision of customer-driven clean energy for all. And then on the other side, we have what's called, in tax terms, it's our C3 organization. It is the group that we get philanthropy money for, and we are really working in the Clean Energy Buyers Institute to solve some of the market barriers that exist. I will be forthcoming in this presentation. A lot of our focus is on the United States energy market, but we definitely have offerings for international members as well. And so I will highlight some of those. But this really is the moment I'm going to give just the briefest history. Like I mentioned, we were established 4 years ago today as the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance. Prior to that, there was 4 NGOs working together that had already been working on programmatic work related to renewable energy procurement. Those 4 NGOs are WWF, which is the World Wildlife Fund, the Rocky Mountain Institute, which is RMI, WRI, which is the World's Resources Institute, and then the last is BSR, which is the Business for Social Responsibility. So all 4 of those NGOs decided 4 years ago to let go of some of its employees and let go of that programmatic work to form an entirely new organization known as the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance. And part of that shift, which was important, was we became a trade association. So we do policy work now in the United States, specifically in regards to clean energy procurement. So where we can eliminate barriers on the policy level, whether that be at the state or federal, we are working to do that as well. So that was a major reason why REBA was brought into life, because those other NGOs did not want to do policy work. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide. And this is a slide to highlight some of our members. These are the members that really participate at a higher level within the organization. You will see VMware there under gold. And so the people on this call today, you might have some of these as clients or have some of these as aspirational clients in the future. And I just wanted to highlight some of the members that are participating today. So we have 360 members. That is a mixture of energy customers, which is what we would consider you, those companies that are procuring renewable energy to meet their own goals and to offset their own energy. So that's your scope 1, scope 2 emissions concept. The other member types that we have are known as energy providers. So our energy providers are those companies or organizations that are actually developing the renewable energy sources. So they're developing your wind or your solar, might be hydro, might be other. And then we have our service providers, which really kind of is a blanket for anyone that's involved in the transaction. That can include your legal representatives, your financiers, all of your consulting groups. And why it's important for us to have that level of participation is we really do believe, especially when it comes to our conferences, which I'll mention in a minute, that we have the smartest community when it comes to renewable energy procurement and everything that's involved. All of those people that are participating participate at a very high level. We have a very intelligent group, and we really lean on that as an organization to bring the most important topics to the front when it comes to our conversations.
And Chris, I would say as a member, VMware is a member of the Clean Energy Buyers Association. And I would say this is actually an amazing, valuable resource that CEBA provides in terms of, as Chris was saying, there's a whole cross sector of companies, international, US, and all different verticals, right, that are setting renewable energy goals. And a lot of them are doing it for the first time, and they really haven't been through the process. But there are also many members who have been through it, and they're willing to share their knowledge. It's a very collaborative environment. It's not like everybody's competing. So people are very willing to share their experiences And oftentimes companies will kind of collaborate to maybe participate in a project together, which helps to lower the costs and the risks and that sort of thing. So it's an amazing, amazing organization and group of members.
Thanks, Nicola. And Nicola is a CEBA champion, and I will get to that later when I mention our boot camps. But I believe our mission aligns with her passions, which is really great. And so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We can sort of talk about that as well. So this is how we define our success. We are lucky enough to stand on the shoulder of giants to define that success. But our CEBA members have been involved in 93% of transactions since 2014, showcasing a commitment to clean energy as one of the most significant paths to a zero carbon future. Now, this is lacking some data that's important. We are in 93% of the transactions that are large scale or utility scale renewable energy products that have been publicly announced. So at least one of our member types was in that deal. And we have a deal tracker that I will show this off to in just a bit as well, so that you can get an understanding of that. But yes, we are really happy that our community is the people that is really the group that's purchasing renewables. That's what we're trying to say with this quote. And that we are still, as Nicola pointed out, bringing new people in, new energy customers into our community and really giving them the tools and starting them off on their journey to renewable energy procurement. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so why do we exist? So I mean, I think all of the resources that Guy had mentioned earlier that you're going to have access to, you'll start to get an understanding that clean energy procurement really isn't easy. Some of it is very complicated. For the lucky few, maybe you will get to work directly with your utility. Maybe your utility will have a clean energy program that covers all of your electricity load. But for the majority of you, there are going to be choices to be made. There's going to be risks that need to be assessed. There's going to be all sorts of different aspects and complications that can come up during this renewable energy procurement journey. So we do see ourselves as the group in the market that educates, as Nicola pointed out, a lot of those new buyer members to the point where they're confident to go work with a consultant, or where they've developed an internal understanding to where they're ready to move forward with purchasing. So we last year spoke to over 10,000 people about clean energy. So we're excited by that number, and that number is definitely going to go up this year as well. And then, like I mentioned, we educate customers on all clean energy procurement options. That really is our goal. We have 200 online resources, which I'm going to highlight in a minute. We do put on 2 major conferences a year. In our conferences, we generally have attendance somewhere around 600 to 700 attendees. And then we are going to also have additional engagements. So we put on webinars throughout the year, in particular on topics that maybe are just new coming into the market that people really need to get or be aware of. And so that is also an aspect of what we do. And then on the other side, we are a policy organization. So we are dedicated to influencing policy that benefits the energy customer, which includes opening up markets, reducing risk, promoting incentive programs and regulations that are intended to help grow this marketplace and the potential for people to get involved. So what's nice about our trade association compared to some others is that even though we have those other customer types, or member types, which are the energy provider and service provider, we only allow our energy customers to dictate what policy work we do. So we do not have influence from those energy providers and service providers. We believe that the voice of the C&I is that strong voice on the Hill in policy work, and that is really what we're attempting to leverage. So again, this is what we see ourselves as doing. Yes, we are the great convener. Yes, we bring a lot of people together in a lot of different groups to really understand what is happening. And I can point that out as well in just a minute here. So yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And for this slide, I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to go through our interconnect platform. As Guy mentioned, and I will go over the supply chain offering at the end of this presentation so you understand it better. But if you do come in for that free 6-month trial, you will have access to this interconnect platform. And the interconnect platform is where we house a lot of our resources. So I'm going to share my screen real fast. And Guy, can you just confirm that we're looking at the interconnect platform, and you should see Detroit here at the top? All right, perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to start in this page just because it takes a while to load on my screen sometimes. But this is under the Discover section, under our resources. This is really where you can find most of the resources that we house. Now, I had mentioned the CEBA deal tracker just a few minutes ago. This is what we have tracked, and you're going to see those company names and how much they've purchased over the years. So starting in 2016, you can see there was 1.54 gigawatts put into the market in that year, and you see this trajectory. We've gone up every single year. And in 2021, we're looking at 11.06. We will actually be launching the official 2022 numbers next week at some point, so we can all understand that. Just a hint, we still went up, which is really good news with the constraints of the market last year. So this is the CEBA deal tracker. Again, this is just to show that we have plenty of people procuring renewable energy at scale. And we're not on this conversation. We can help you with things that aren't entire wind farms or entire solar arrays. You know, we are still going to have some information for you. So don't be aware, like you're not having to buy at utility scale to become a member. As Nicola mentioned, there is the possibility of what they call aggregated deals, where you might be able to get involved with some of these other members for a smaller portion of a larger deal. And we can talk to that in a minute as well. So this is our deal tracker. And then I'm just going to highlight some of the resources that you can find here. So assuming that you come join us, you would land on this page here, click on this resources tab, and this will bring you into the resources that we have available today. As you can see, we have a total of 220 results when it comes to the resources. This includes everything from primers to case studies to past energy customer calls. We do an energy customer call once a month. To keep everyone informed about what's kind of the current state of the market. And then any of our old event information that could be digitized, you'll find a lot of that here as well. But I will, just to guide you today, let you know that the best thing to search for is this title search and hit primer. I believe that the primers are going to be the lion's share of the value you have with these resources. These go over a lot of those procurement options. So as you can see, we have a tax equity primer. We have a virtual power purchase agreement primer. We have a primer on community solar. The two that I really like, if you're newer to the market, are these on-site and off-site term sheets. What these are, and I'm going to go into just one so I can highlight what this looks like. This is a document that basically tells you the language to expect when you're dealing with a contract or contracting for on-site renewable energy. So down below here, you can read these documents directly from the website. And then I'm going to move down just so we can get an idea. We're going to go through an explanation of terms. So these are the terms you might see or hear when dealing with renewable energy procurement. And below here, we go a little step further to not only give you those terms again, but let you know whether they're flexible on the contract, and then give you our insights and recommendations on those terms. So again, this is a great way to just start understanding the language of procuring clean energy or renewable energy. But we have a ton of primers. That is where I would start in general. The other tool that I really like outside of this resources, if I again click on this Discover tab, once it comes back, and I click on this roadmap, this is another great resource for understanding clean energy procurement. It is one of our older products, but it's still great to understand where you go. So you're starting here at determining electricity load, and you are going to follow this path all the way to post COD follow-up, or once your project is actually online. And this is just a great way to understand all of the steps and really what's needed in those steps. We built this with the recommendations of our buyers that had gone through this process and told us these are the steps we need. This building an internal approval is a lot of times where people get held up. That's why these are kind of stacked. There is a process for getting people in your company on board with this. Obviously, it helps when you're a supplier of a client that's asking you to have a 100% renewable goal by 2030, but that is exciting. This is a way to start to understand how to get there. So if I click on this, I'm just going to show it real fast. It will jump in. We do have short videos here as well. So I know you had mentioned Anthesis having some videos. We do have some quick ones. If you needed to learn about economic dispatch, these are 3 to 5 minute long videos to learn that specific topic. We also have hyperlinks within this document that pull out so you can learn everything you need to know about virtual PPAs as well. The other aspects of this, I'm not going to go through a full demonstration of this portal, but we do have this connection portal. And as Nicola had mentioned, we do really believe that our community and you being able to build those informal relationships in our community is also going to help with your journey. So not only are you going to have that peer-to-peer learning, but there may be opportunities that come just from speaking with the people that are part of CEBA's community already. So this acts as a basic LinkedIn concept for all CEBA members. Once you join, once you build a profile, you would be able to access someone like Aaron. Let's say you went to one of his sessions, you click on Aaron here, you can connect. This is an informal way for you to start connecting with some of the people that are working with CEBA directly. Again, we don't necessarily expect you to continue your conversations here. Maybe you bring that relationship to LinkedIn, maybe you bring it somewhere else. But this is a great opportunity to kind of understand who is working with CEBA directly. And lastly, I'm going to show this off just briefly. We do allow our energy providers or those developers to show off projects that they are looking for off-takers for. So you're going to see a bunch of pins on this screen. And these pins indicate whether this is a wind project, whether this is a solar project, whether we have a hydro project here. And again, we do have some international coverage as well. If I click on that pin, it gives me that brief detail. So this is a hydro project brought to you by Brookfield Renewables. Gives you a brief description of what you can expect from this project. If you go into the details a little bit further, you'll see this is in the United States, Pennsylvania. We know the ISO RTO. This might not mean anything to you today, but this is in PJM. And some of the other details that you can have. So this is a great way to understand what is available. We don't necessarily expect you to use this. Again, we see ourselves as a group that's going to educate you to the point where you say internally, let's move forward with a project. More than likely, you're going to go to a consultant. The consultant might show you 100 more projects that meet your criteria, but this can get that started for you. And I saw Nicola come off real quick.
Yeah, and Chris, I think it's a great time to point out as well, you can see there's some projects internationally as well. So it's not, I mean, obviously there's a lot of focus on the US and that's where a lot of the projects are, but certainly we have, the members are, a lot of them are global corporations looking for projects overseas,
For sure. And I wasn't going to talk about the webinars until a couple slides later, but one of the important webinars I do want to mention is we have webinars called Worldwide Wednesdays. As a member on that trial, you would be able to access those as well. So when it comes to our events, these events are up here in this corner as well. And anything you can register for is open to all our buyers. You can see that here. We don't have any of those Worldwide Wednesdays on this events calendar as of today, but I think in the next week they plan to add most of what we're going to do this year. But I can promise we are going to go over China. We are going to talk about Australia. We are going to talk about Canada. We did Mexico in December. We might get back to Mexico, but we do Europe as well. I know we did Poland last year and some other countries. So we will look at a very specific geography, a very specific location. We get all of our energy customers together that are interested in procuring there. They talk about barriers, they talk about best practices, and then usually we bring in another NGO who has feet on the ground experience there. So CEBA is never going to be an expert on all international markets. We try to reach out to our friends at other NGOs to let us know what's really happening in those markets as well. So that's a really great access point for you. The other one that is in here, and I'm gonna have to try to remember its name, but like our deal tracker, we do have another tracker that does highlight procurement around the world. We don't track that in those deals. That deal tracker was specifically for the United States. But But one of the and you'll see these resources throughout here, and I apologize, I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. But they will also tell you some of the international stuff that is going on as well. And, you know, I was going to get to the conferences in a bit as well. We do at our conferences a lot of times do breakouts into tables to discuss very specific geographies or very specific international concepts. So certainly, and this is what I always highlight at the end of this portal discussion, what you don't find here in the portal as a resource, we will probably likely talk about some aspect of that at our conferences. So today, there's probably not a great resource on carbon sequestration, but at the last two events, we've specifically talked about carbon sequestration. So just be aware, it's not comprehensive here, but in totality, if you go to our conference as well, which you are going to be invited to, you will find those other topics that you might not see here today as well. So that really covers the majority of what is in the CEBA portal, and that's an online offering that is eligible for you when you go on that trial. So I'm going to stop sharing here and we'll go back to those slides. And yes, this is, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, one comment while we're transitioning, because it's always an amazing statistic to me, but you threw up that slide about the number of corporate deals over the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I mean, they're pretty astounding. And I remember, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, there was a statistic that said that there were more corporate procurement of renewable energy in terms of total megawatt hours than all the utilities buying total new energy on the grid, which was just, to me, amazing that the corporations are having such an incredible impact.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important too, is that understanding that it really is the corporates that are driving clean energy procurement more than our governments, more than some of the other institutions that are out there. And that's what's really exciting. And I think that's what CEBA likes to stand behind, is that, you know, there's good business sense in procuring renewable energy. There's good business sense in clean energy procurement. And thanks to some of our pioneering members, some of the ones that have been doing it for a long time and who probably had significant losses on some of those deals in the past, it is getting to the point where it just makes common sense to pursue clean energy as well. And that's really what we're driving towards. We're not there yet, but hopefully someday it just becomes super easy for corporates and everybody else to purchase clean energy more than those fossil fuels and everything else. So that's really what we're looking for. So I'm going to jump into our conferences. Again, I just mentioned them. We do run our conferences slightly different than some you may have attended. We really like to try to break down larger groups into smaller tables to facilitate conversations, to make that setting a little more intimate, even with there being 600 to 700 attendees. Anyone who is on this call today that does join the supply chain partner plan we have for you will be eligible to go to this CEBA Connect Spring Summit, which is going to be in Seattle. As I mentioned down below, our buyer members a lot of times host our spring summits. And so the hosts coming up are going to be Amazon, REI, Starbucks, and Microsoft. And so we're really excited to be going to Seattle. We last year went to Detroit, General Motors and Hemlock Semiconductor were our hosts. We've been to Disney World, obviously Disney was our host. And then we've been to some other locations. So we're always looking for new locations every spring. And then in the fall, I'm confident we will probably partner with Verge again. If you're familiar with Verge and anyone on the call, GreenBiz puts on a conference called the Verge Conference. In the last few years, CEBA has helped manage their energy side of that conference. They do circularity and sustainability and some other stuff that we don't, but we help with that energy side, and then we will have you as members get access to that as well. So those are our conferences, and then our boot camps. And again, I told you I was going to talk about Nicola being a champion. She has helped with our boot camps so many years. I don't know how long it's been, but I met her 3 years ago at a boot camp. What our boot camp structure is that we bring 13 to 15 what you might consider students to Boulder, Colorado this year. And we get you into a room where we facilitate a conversation between you and our expert buyers, which act as faculty. So Nicola has volunteered for that a number of times, which is really great. And we'll get you in a room with these people. So the one I went to a long time ago, we did have Nicole in there, VMware. Gosh, it's going to be hard to remember them all. We had someone from General Motors, Starbucks, and I think Iron Mountain were acting as faculty at that one. We brought in a consultant from 3 Degrees, and we brought in a representative from, I want to say Wilson Cincini that time as well. We get you in that room, we facilitate a conversation between you and that group of faculty members about really what does it take to get to procuring at such a high level? How do you get that internal approval? Why do you push for it? How do you as an organization or a company really promote that as the smart thing to do, as the best business choice? And it's really a great experience. We do dinners afterwards, there's hiking, there's other things involved. So if you're interested in boot camps, let me know. I don't know if they're part of the supply chain offer, to tell you the truth, but I'm sure we can make exceptions if there's someone that's really interested. Again, they also fill up really fast. That might be some of the difficulty with offering it for the supply chain program. But that is what CEBA does. That's one of our great convenings that we like to put on for everyone else. And then lastly, I was just going to talk about webinars. We talked about the Worldwide Wednesdays. We're going to come out with webinars throughout the year. CEBA, which was at Clean Energy Buyers Institute, will also have webinars that you have access to throughout the year. So just be looking at that event section. Stuff will come up like this webinar series. We just do a bunch of those as well. So it would be a Zoom style webinar. All right, I think we can move to the next slide. All right, Guy went over scope 3. Hopefully everyone on the call has a general understanding of scope 3. I'm only going to mention it again because I want to reiterate that it's not just VMware that's looking at scope 3. I just went and did a list of our energy customers today. We have at least 119 members that have signed on to the science-based target initiatives. If you don't know what the science-based target initiative is, that is a website or an initiative or an organization like ours that lets companies share their targets publicly. I know that was an important aspect of what you need to do to be part of the zero carbon initiative here within VMware, was to have that proof of stating your goals publicly. But to come back on that, what's important about it is that with the 130 members that are participating in Science-Based Target Initiative, that means those 130 members are making or actively attempting to make a goal about their scope 3 emissions. So they are looking at their supplier emissions and saying, we need to make a goal to have a reduction in supplier emissions. And so that's why it's really important as suppliers, who everyone is on this call, if you're looking at some of those members, you saw some of those big names on that, they are also looking at your emissions. And so it is time to start understanding that the faster you get there, and 2030 is an aggressive goal, but it's a great goal, because the faster you get there, the more you're going to stand out. The sooner you can get off that GHG ledger, the better. You are going to stand out. You are going to rise to the top. You are going to step above your competitors when you get to 100% renewable. So that's just something that's important to consider. So I just wanted to reiterate that with this kind of scope 3 talk. I don't really need to talk too much more about it. We can jump to the next slide.
Yeah, and actually, Chris, just as a clarification, there are over 4,500 companies now globally signed up for science-based targets, and that's just one of many different types of decarbonization targets companies are committing to. So I think it's just, your point really is just that this is a very hot topic, and commitments that companies are making. They are looking to their suppliers to help them with those targets.
Yeah, and I apologize. My scope is a lot of times US based, but internationally, yeah, I was looking at that today too. So yeah, basically 4,500 companies, a huge impact on some of the people that are probably on this call are looking at those emissions. And some of the people on this call are going to start looking at their scope 3 emissions. It's almost impossible not to have scope 3 emissions. So just get prepared to start understanding scope 3. So what you can do as a supplier of VMware is that we have this way for you to join the membership for 6 months for free. if after that trial, and I hope some of you make this decision, you want to stay on and really participate, become part of the community, move forward with us, you will get a 50% discount off of your first year's membership as well. So that's a great way to come in, start to understand how CEBA works. Hopefully you can come to that spring summit. You do get access to that summit coming up in May in Seattle, which should be great as well. We are going to send out newsletters for you that will keep you engaged. We have a supply chain specific newsletter, and that, of course, we'll talk about some of the international stuff that we do as well. And then you get access to that member portal. So just be aware that you will have access to the member portal. And that's unlimited access for your company. So it's not this one person at your company that will get their own profile. You can have 20, 30, however many people you'd like sign up and have access to our member portal as well. So yeah, if we want to go to the next slide, I'm just going to do a brief conclusion. I think I've spoke plenty today. But again, procuring clean energy is not necessarily easy. And that is why CEBA exists. And we want to be there to help you get to that level where you're confident that you're making the right decisions. Because I think we all know that knowledge is the best form or deterrent of risk. And there is risk involved in these transactions. And so if you start with that knowledge base, then hopefully you can avoid risk, and maybe in the end, we save you millions US dollars. I mean, it is potentially that risky for some of these deals, but on the same sense, I want you to understand that that risk has gone way down over the years, and that it is becoming one of those things where it makes good business sense, especially as a supplier, to start looking at your renewable energy procurement, your clean energy procurement, and getting to that level where you're at 0% or 100% carbon free, all renewable energy, all of those things are good. So again, I appreciate your time today and hope we get to work together, some of the people that are on this call.
Thanks, Chris. And yeah, just a call to action for everyone. There's another QR code here. We will send the deck out to everyone who's participated today, so don't worry about necessarily getting the links right now. But I've spoken to Teresa and we will send the deck out. Chris, thank you very much. And Nicola, thank you very much. If there's any questions, the Q&A is open. We haven't really had any questions at all. So feel free to pop something in the Q&A if you're able to. We'll stay on for another minute or so and see if any questions come in.
Yeah, and Guy and Chris, I think one other comment I really would like to make is that, you know, what we're seeing is some of the larger public cloud providers, you know, they have set aggressive goals, they've executed on them. And so they have a good story to tell when their market is asking for, hey, can you help us reduce our carbon emissions in their use of public cloud? So this is definitely one of those features of your services that customers are increasingly interested in. So it is currently a competitive differentiator, but I believe it's quickly moving to table stakes, and it's something like security. You know, it is something that customers are now expecting. So, and we can absolutely help you along the way. So please reach out to us and take advantage of the 6 month free trial membership.
One other interesting thing just to point out to the partners who are still here, if you're a smaller partner and you actually want to get out of the data center game and move into just a services game, there are partners out there who are already zero carbon committed. And there are partners out there providing infrastructure only who are zero carbon committed. So we do have, you know, some of those partners who will host another partner. So think about that as well, because that's also a way to kind of jumpstart your initiative, jumpstart your strategy. You can close your data center, move all of your services into another VMware zero carbon committed partner, and instantly reap the benefits of the work they've done. All right. Well, I don't think there's any more questions, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much, Chris, for all your time presenting today. Really appreciate you coming on this vmLIVE. And Nicola, thanks for providing all the commentary as well and highlighting some of the areas that needed a little bit more clarity. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Everyone, bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.